Fire Emblem Three Houses is the latest game in this storied franchise, and the first to hit a home console since Radiant Dawn for the Wii. And to say the least, Three Houses is a huge departure from the rest of the series in a lot of ways. I'm Dean from Fandom, and I'm here to walk you through what is perhaps the biggest development in the Fire Emblem franchise in its almost 30-year history. Fire Emblem Three Houses takes place on the continent of Fodlan, which is more or less evenly split between three major powers: the Adrestrian Empire to the south, the Holy Kingdom of Fargus to the north, and the Leicester Alliance to the east. These are all rival kingdoms who have been at war in the past, but are in the midst of a centuries-long period of peace. And one of the symbols of that peace is the Garag Mach Monastery, a prestigious military boarding school where students from all three nations go to study. Each nation corresponds to a different house at the monastery. The Black Eagles are led by Adrestria's Crown Princess Edelgard. The Blue Lions represent Fargus and are led by their Crown Prince Dimitri. And the Golden Deer are led by Claude, the heir to the Leicester Alliance's leading family. Alright, did you get all that? Alright, let me break it down a little bit simpler. Think of it like Hogwarts, but for military school, where each house represents a distinct country instead of a vague set of virtues. Your character is Byleth, or whatever you choose to name them. Byleth is a mercenary whose father Geralt has an odd connection to the monastery, where everyone seems to revere him as some sort of legend, but he doesn't really talk about it much, and he doesn't really seem to like it. Nevertheless, Geralt and Byleth are summoned to the monastery, and Byleth is immediately put to work as a teacher at the prestigious officers' school. It's here that you'll meet the students of the titular Three Houses, and choose which one you want to lead as head instructor. Each house gives you a different set of starting characters to work with, and sets you on a different storyline, in which you'll be pitted against the other two houses. So there's a good bit of replayability here. But never mind replayability, let's talk about, the actual playability. If Three Houses is your first Fire Emblem game, this is a great place to start. Fodlan is a completely new setting for the series with new characters and conflicts, so you don't really need to know anything about the previous games to get into this one. It's actually quite the opposite, in fact. If you're walking into this armed with knowledge from previous Fire Emblem games, you might find yourself actually more confused than a new player. Three Houses is plenty accessible, of course, and it won't take too long for any tactics-minded player to grasp the basics. But there's a ton of new stuff in this game compared to its predecessors, and more importantly, a few things you might expect to see that are gone. Let's start with the obvious one. Fire Emblem veterans should know the weapon triangle very well. It's a rock-paper-scissors style system where sword beats axe, axe beats lance, and lance beats sword. Nearly every game in the series has had this as the basis of its tactical combat since its inception in 1990. And it's gone now. Three Houses does away with the weapon triangle system entirely. There are still differences in the speed, power, and accuracy of each weapon type, as well as each unit's expertise with them. And some weapon advantages from previous games, like bows being effective against flying units, remain the same. But in Three Houses, taking an axe user into battle against a sword is a perfectly valid strategy. This weapon triangle layer of strategy is replaced with other tactical choices, like terrain effects playing a much bigger role in shaping battlefield strategy. But more than ever before, battles are now won and lost in preparation. And this leads into the most significant new aspect of Three Houses: day-to-day life. Now, I mentioned that you'd have to choose a house to lead, right? Well, it's not enough to just choose it. You're a teacher. You need to actually teach them. While previous Fire Emblem games are generally mission-based, Three Houses advances on a calendar system. You'll progress through the months by taking part in school activities, getting to know the students and faculty, assigning tasks and chores, gardening, fishing, and most importantly, teaching. Missions will pop up on the calendar between those stretches of free time, and so how you use that time makes a huge difference in your preparation for the battles ahead. Fire Emblem has always had a system of skill leveling for your characters. The more a character uses a certain weapon or skill, the more experience they gain and the more proficient they become with it. But Three Houses really expands on this system by letting you actually teach lessons to specifically train up individual skills on individual characters. Of course, characters will still gain weapon and skill proficiency, as well as regular old experience points, in battle. But if you have a role in mind for a particular character, you can train them for those particular skills. And training characters in certain weapons and skills doesn't just make them passively stronger, it also unlocks new abilities and combat arts. Combat arts are yet another new feature in Three Houses. These give you a more powerful attack in exchange for extra weapon durability charges. And that's just one of the ways classes and training change the way you play. You can also train units to equip heavy armor, to ride a horse or Pegasus, or even command their own battalion. In fact, the way you reclass your units as they get stronger is based solely on the skills you train each unit in. No longer are units locked to a specific progression path. Because of that, Three Houses has a much stronger emphasis on building your characters as a major element of the game's tactics. Rather than just making sure your character has a weapon type advantage, you mold characters from the ground up who excel in specific circumstances. And so your battlefield management is about putting those characters into the circumstances you've trained them for. Now, there's a lot of nuance that goes into training students. Each student has a particular set of goals, things they want to be trained in, as well as personal strengths and weaknesses. But you also need to manage your students' motivation to learn by treating them to meals or doing certain activities with them. You can even recruit new students and have your students get to know each other better with the return of the support system. But no, Awakening and Fates fans, shipping your characters together doesn't result in you getting their kids as new units. You'll just have to imagine what their offspring look like this time. Now, this is all just a scratch of the surface on Intelligent Systems' most ambitious Fire Emblem project to date. There's a new world to explore, new characters to meet, and a bunch of new mechanics to play with. They've even added a limited rewind function, so if you make a fatal mistake, you can undo a few moves instead of, resetting the whole game to save scum your favorite character away from an untimely permadeath. So, how are you enjoying the world of Fodlan? Who were you shipping together? Which is the best house, and why is it the Golden Deer? Let me know about it in the comments below. I've been Dean from Fandom, and I'll see you next time.
Oh my. What could have brought you here?